I love hard work.
Oh, how I love the Disco Dan era. Let me count the ways.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what do you say, Seattle hockey fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we bring you your favorite team every single day. My name is Erica L. Ayala. I am your host of Locked On Kraken. If you listened to yesterday's episode, Thursday's episode, then you know we are going to have a special contributor joining us, and those shows are mostly right now going to go up on Thursdays. But Zane Begg, who is the leader, the fearless leader of Davy Jones' locker room, is going to be joining us once a week on Locked On Kraken. We had our first episode yesterday. It was a blast. We went a little long, but we were having a good time. And Zane is a rock star. I can't wait to get his expertise on the show. But want to let you know today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, that's Sunday, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And I played that little clip from Dan Bylsma. It's only been 2 days of the Disco Dan era on the ice, but I am already fired up, as our friend Jason JD Hernandez might say, about what we're seeing. I think that there's so much potential. We're going back to hockey club or HC opportunity with Dan Bylsma, and I think that he knows it. The coaching staff throughout the organization knows it. I'm hoping that this means that the front office knows it and is ready to support this team. And the players are certainly feeling it. And on today's episode, we're going to hear from Jordan Eberle and Yanni Gord. Both of them have been alternate captains for the Seattle Kraken over the past few years. And if you listen to Thursday's episode, highly recommend that you listen to that one, because Zane and I break down this roster. And while Eberle, who just signed an extension, I think still has a pretty secure, significant leadership role and probably on ice role for this team, Yanni Gord is one of those players that we have to see how he fits in when it comes to the business side of the Seattle Kraken, because I'm going to tell you, and again, we're going to hear from Yanni Gord, but I just really think that he fits the Dan Bylsma style really, really well. And I'm going to talk about that coming up on today's episode. But I want to take you over to Jordan Eberle. First of all, if you listen to the show, hello, everydayers and OGers, you know that I think a campaign for captain would be well suited to end at a road that leads to Jordan Eberle. I know a lot of you in the comments have talked about his age, even now talking about his contract. And I honestly I wouldn't be surprised if the Seattle Kraken, don't have a captain, don't name a captain, but he's captain material to me through and through. And I think that's invaluable. And we're going to hear Jordan Eberle talk a little bit about the importance of the way training camp is structured this year, but he also was asked and answered why it's important to have the training camp the way it is and what he thinks about the moves that were made in the offseason. And if you're looking at the sidebar on YouTube, then you already know in essence what Jordan Eberle said. But let me take you to Jordan Eberle talking to us today, Friday, after one of the skate sessions at training camp.
For me, I mean, personally, I think that, our depth's always been a strong point of this team the last couple of years. And in my opinion, it's gotten better with some of the changes we've made in the season, some of the draft picks, some of the young guys who are playing really well. And that's how you build franchises, that's how you build organizations. And, you try and mix and have some young guys play with some older guys and get some youth and some experience. And I think that always translates into competitive camps, guys pushing for spots and making each other better and ultimately the team better. Yeah, I think he's definitely a more confident player. You see him around the rink, he's definitely a more confident guy too. So, we need him to be confident. He's obviously got tremendous talent. He took a massive step at the end of the year there. You see him playing with some confidence, and you can tell the skill and especially his brain, it's there. So, he's going to be a big part of this team, and along with him, we have a lot of really good prospects that look good.
And so that's Eberle, not just talking about the importance of mixing the lines for the reasons of depth, but he was also in that last clip that I played talking about Shane Wright. We've been talking a lot about Shane Wright. I've been telling you for weeks now that he's determined. He wants to make this NHL roster, and I think he's going to do exactly that. There really is no one who we've spoken to, from Ron Francis, you just heard from Jordan Eberle, from Derek Laxdal, to Dan Bylsma, to me and Zame, who talked about it yesterday. Shane Wright is bigger. He's faster. He's stronger. He's more mature. He's ready to take on leadership. And what I liked also about that Eberle clip, and we're going to hear from Dan Bylsma later in the show about this, but I'm not one that reads into lines too early into training camp. And the depth, that's a real throwback. The depth of the Seattle Kraken is what Eberle led with in that clip that the beginning of that clip that I just shared with you. And that has been lacking. I make no qualms about it. Those who listen to this show regularly know. When we lost Daniel Sprung, Morgan Geekie, and one of my favorites, Ryan Donato, I did the easy basic math. We never replaced those goals. And that fourth line, if you want to talk about the Seattle Kraken getting to the playoffs for the first time in franchise history, you cannot understate what that line that was primarily eating up fourth line minutes, they were the spark plug for the offense. And you can say maybe it was scouting, maybe it was that the line combinations left something more, to behold. And but whatever the case was, whether it was scouting from the opponents, whether it was just chemistry, injury, things of that nature, what was a constant in season 2 was that fourth line. And Eberle saying that getting the young people into camp, but also integrating them the way that they have been so far. And I would add, mixed with the tenacious, the demanding structure of Dan's first 2 days of training camp. This is what is going to energize the Seattle Kraken going into the regular season. And this is exactly what I've been wanting. It was at least 2 training camps ago, but definitely last year. I think coming out of season 2 training camp and then again at season 3 training camp, I had been saying, we cannot play games in October as fatigued as we have looked in the last 2 seasons. There's no good reason for that. That means either you've got a bunch of injured players, you have players that didn't do maybe as much as they could have. They didn't max out on getting their warm-ups and their off-season conditioning together, especially right before training camp, or training camp wasn't rigorous. It didn't prepare them beyond preseason. And, I've been feeling that for a while. I don't think that we'll have that problem. Now, I do think that the Seattle Kraken very well may stumble out of the gate for a lot of reasons, a myriad of reasons, including that there's a little bit of chemistry between the quote unquote old school or our OGers on the roster and some of the young blood coming up with Dan and Jessica. That's to be expected. That being said, if the Seattle Kraken drop, I mean, I don't know, I don't have a number, but if they're not meeting success with the final score, I don't want to call it a bold prediction, but my prediction right now is that it will not be because of lack of effort or preparation. If we're being honest, sometimes you just get beat. You get beat by teams who have a core together. I mean, we know it took a little while, but if we just look at the Pittsburgh Penguins and Sidney Crosby coming back, like how many years, what is it, 18 or some odd years that they've had that guy up the middle? You know, when you go to camp, who you're working with, Sid the Kid. I mean, that's an advantage. It is a luxury that the Seattle Kraken, of course, don't have right now. So I'm not going to say that it's going to be easy. But it's not going to be easy for the opponents playing the Kraken either. And that makes me excited. That's why I led with that clip in our cold open. And you're going to hear that clip again when we hear from Dan Bylsma. But coming up on today's episode, I want to hear from Yanni Gord, because he is someone who, if you listen to the show in the offseason, you know I had been speculating. There'd been a lot of rumors about Yanni Gord and a potential trade. We talked just yesterday and again earlier this week about the Seattle Kraken are likely going to have to figure something out with their roster spots, with their salary cap, and Yanni Gord might be a player. You know, Zane mentioned it on yesterday's episode, probably too good to be playing fourth line minutes. That being said, I have a theory. And I'm going to talk about that. We're going to hear from Yanni Gord, and I'm going to let you know my theory about why, although Yanni Gord, yes, I agree, is better than fourth line minutes, there's something about Yanni Gord and the way that I perceive how he plays hockey, how he quite honestly goes about life, that could be really electric, can be an X factor, can even be a key to unlocking the Seattle Kraken this season. We're going to talk about that coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Kraken. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. I love Game Time. I have the app. I travel so much, and I love that when I do have some free time and I'm feeling up to it or I'm catching up with friends, I know that on a whim, or even if I look ahead, I can find the best deal for some of the hottest tickets in town, no matter where I am. And now things have gotten even better for Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I also love that I can see the view from the seats. You can now toggle so that you have the all-in pricing, so you're seeing everything that you're paying up front. That helps you stay on a budget, balling on a budget, or maybe once you see how much you're paying for the tickets, you know you can go to a nice dinner because, again, you got a great deal at Game Time. So here's what we need you to do. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. That is, again, Locked On NHL promo code over at Game Time. Terms do apply, but remember that code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? Oh, it's game time. Thanks as always for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. We appreciate you locking in right here. We're back to 5 days a week. I introduced a co-host that's going to join us, and we have some content that we're going to put up for exclusively for our insiders. That's going to come over the weekend. And then we're back after it, coming to you straight from training camp. I'm so excited. I know I say this a lot, but it's because it's true. I've been able to catch up with the beat. I've been able to catch up with some of our favorite broadcasters. Al and Everett have been there. Allison Lucan, for those who are season ticket holders, she was hosting earlier today at Kraken Community Iceplex. Piper was there for day one, and it just is starting to feel real. And I always like some swag, right? I always like a giveaway. And these are pucks, the little squishy ones. So like the stress balls. But it's got the Kraken logo, black and white, for those not watching on YouTube. But then on the other side, I had to pick one of these up. It says tune in, and then it's got the King 5 logo, the Kong logo, the Prime logo, and KJR 93.3 FM logo, because these are all the places, you can tune in to the Seattle Kraken. So I had to pick one of these up. I love a freebie. I love the promo. We are part of the Tegna family. So it's been great to meet some of the Tegna crew. And on Sunday, we get to see what Kraken Hockey Network is going to be all about. I cannot wait. But before that, we have another really good day, Saturday. The guys are going to get after it, and they have been getting after it. We heard from Andre Burakovsky today. We've been asking all the guys because we're seeing the drills. We're hearing what Dan Bylsma has been saying, and we're going to hear from him again on today's episode. And Berkey comes to the podium. It's a new podium, a lectern. Excuse me. Zame and I figured that out yesterday. Coming to the lectern, and someone asked, what would your legs say about the training? And he's like, I don't think my legs could talk. That's how much they are opening the lungs. They are getting after it, and I freaking love it. Now, as a player, in college, I did not always come to preseason, which for us, technically it was the preseason to our fall season, but I did not always come in fit. I'm just going to be honest. And so I know, at least at a collegiate level, what it's like when you're not quite where you probably need to be, and you're going to get your butt handed to you. I absolutely know what that feels like. It is not great, but it is the best thing. You want to go through that in preseason. You want to go through that in fall ball. That was kind of like our preseason. It was like a mini camp, like the rookie face-off, I guess. You want to have those reps because what you then establish your baseline. And that's effectively what I think Dan Bylsma is doing. But it's really more, he's not even just establishing the baseline, he is creating the baseline. And I think he's doing it in such an intellectual, such a thoughtful way, where it's not my impression, I should say. And I'll unearth this a little bit more with some of the players that we'll talk to throughout training camp. But I don't get the sense that it's, just flipping the table, wiping the slate clean, erasing everything. I think it's a matter of pumping up the volume on things that are quintessentially Dan Bylsma and honestly what's needed for this team, while embracing and fostering a smooth transition to crank that up while just milding out other things. That's kind of my take. That being said, we haven't got a real good look at the systems. We haven't gotten a real good look at the lines. And that's, Eberle was alluding to that. And then we'll hear in the next segment from Dan Bylsma. I have some clips where he gets a little bit more into his philosophy and maybe quite honestly why we shouldn't read too much into the lines. We're going to get to that. But right now I want you to hear from Yanni Gord, a player that I never thought we would necessarily say this about him, but could be a bubble player, could be a player that we utilize in a trade. And the reason that I hate saying that, is the exact same reason why I think if this culture change is going down the way I think it's going down, honestly, Yanni Gord could be a champion, a pioneer of everything that I think Dan Bylsma wants to see in the Seattle Kraken. He does whatever it takes. He's willing to switch up positions, puts in extra effort, and he not only works hard, but there's an intellect, and he sees the ice well. He's taken a lot on, especially last year, and I hope that he can get rewarded because he is the hard worker. He's an engine, and I like that about Yanni. But those are my thoughts about Yanni. I just really think that if the Seattle Kraken can find a way to get some wins early, then I think Yanni Gord, just by the nature of who he is as a competitor and likely as a person and a leader, that he's going to make it really hard for Dan Bylsma and the front office to not have him along this new era, this Disco Dan era. That's my, I don't know if it's a bold take. I don't know, if it's a bold prediction, but maybe it's also what I want to see. But anyway, here's Yanni.
I think it's great. Pace has been awesome. Drills are good. Compete level is high. It's been fun. It's been great. Very detailed oriented coach. You can notice it in practice. Work ethic has been really high. If you don't do the details, he blows the whistle, you go back, you do it again, and second time do it right. And I think that's great. It's great accountability for everybody, and it's the standard. Everybody knows what to expect. Everybody knows this is the standard, what it's going to be, and I think it's a great start. We're going to play fast, be hard to play against. I think. Back to that, and using our feet, using our quickness, moving the puck quick. I think that's going to be our ammo this year with the few meetings we've had. Everything has to be done fast, and I think I love that. A lot of great skater on this team, and it's going to benefit everybody, I think, if we play that way.
I don't how do I smash the like button? I freaking love that. You don't do the drill right, you go back to the line, you do it again. And we're going to hear from Dan. He knows that that's not going to make him necessarily the most popular guy, but and we've talked about this before. Or not but, and what I've noticed from Dan, and I love this too, is that he is willing to go there and be tough and be just a demanding coach. And he knows how to bring the passion and the fun at times to the ice. And my take is that a few things can happen. One is that you absolutely motivate and empower your team. Sometimes because you light a fire under their rump, and other times because they just want that contagious energy, that confidence, that enthusiasm, that passion. And there are other times where when you bring that kind of energy and you bring it consistently and you are making and creating expectations, and then you actually hold people to account to those expectations, you also kind of weed people out. I'm not saying that's happening, but it is something that I think we should keep an eye out for if and when the organization makes any moves. So we're going to hear from Dan. And again, hard work, baby. I am so here for this era of Kraken hockey. Today's episode of Locked on Kraken brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. And listen, the 22nd is coming up quick. You know, I learned that I believe the Dolphins, right, are in town taking on the Seahawks. We've got a mutual from the Locked On NHL channel that's in town for that. But you've heard us talk about FanDuel so much, and I love talking about the futures odds, and I think we're the Seattle Kraken 87.5 wins. Are you going to take the over? You're going to take the under on that? Let me know. But about America's #1 sports book. We have something a little bit different for you, and it's only going to last until Sunday. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV-based plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. All right. Thanks as always for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. I want to let you know, go check out Locked On NHL. I was on with Rachel and Gil. We broke down the names and the logos and maybe some of the culture surrounding the names of every PWHL team on the latest installment of the Women's Hockey Spotlight. You're not going to want to miss that. Go check it out over on Locked On NHL. And I mean, are you getting the sense that I'm pretty fired up? That I'm liking the early returns from the Disco Dan era. That I mean, if you listen to the show more than, 3 or 4 times, you probably know I'm a pretty passionate person. Is it because I'm a New Yorker? Is it because I'm a Latina? I mean, there's so many things, right? That could be the cause, and it's probably a mix of everything. I really just like the promise that is laid out ahead of the Seattle Kraken. And what I like is that there's I feel like maybe I'm making this term up, but there's a realistic urgency. Sometimes people have urgency and they're just like, just go, 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 go. This is realistic, calculated, smarter, not harder urgency. And the reason I was talking to Zame about this, and I think we mentioned it on Thursday's podcast as well. You can hear the same kind of thing in a NHL locker room or any sports locker room. And it's kind of these cliches that people pucks in deep, compete level, control the controllables, the hardest thing to do is end someone's season. These are things that you hear a lot in hockey or in sports, right? And sometimes people just say it because they've got to do media several days or several times a week. And then sometimes that you're hearing the same words: pace, compete, fast. You're hearing the same words because that's what's actually happening. Those are the messages that are being sent, and they are being reinforced in everything that's happening. Dan at every turn, and there really is an art to this. There's an art, there's a science, there's a beauty in what he's doing. It's kind of like Muhammad Ali. I have this, there's a quote that was given to me when I was in grad school on like a little piece of, like stock paper, right? And it's a Muhammad Ali quote. I don't remember the exact words. I should, because I look at it almost every day, but it's something akin to, I knew I was the great. I said I was the greatest even before I knew I was, or something like that. And it's this idea of, you say things, you have these affirmations, you have these statements, not questions, not hopes, but and even not really goals. You say what you are before you are that. It's very powerful psychology. And it's got me pretty fired up. It's working on me. So I don't know how it's working on the guys, but you just heard from Yanni. You just heard from Jordan Eberle. You let me know. Do you think the Kraken have a North Star? I think they know what's expected of them. And that in and of itself is powerful. But let's hear from the man himself. Just celebrated a birthday. He told us today that the way he celebrated was, he's always in training camp, always got hockey stuff on the brain. But the way he celebrated is that his wife made several of his favorite dishes. He enjoyed all of them and then went to sleep. I was like, that's real. But here's Dan Bylsma talking about his philosophy, why it's important to work hard, get the repetitions. He talks a little bit about one of the drills that he's done, and then also why he's mixing and mingling the lines. And I think it's as much to do with the youths as it is with the players that have been on the Kraken roster in years past. Here's Dan Bylsma.
It's hockey, and in order to play this game, you got to be able to skate. You got to be able to skate up and down the rink, and that test we did today, I label it a return to play skate, and usually comes after an injury and you're trying to return to play. But we're all trying to return to play. Start of the training camp, so just a great test to see A, they can do it, and B, a little bit of guts on the ice to finish it. And everyone dug in. For the most part, everyone dug in. You got to see that, and it was, they may not have liked it, but I love to see it. A little bit a chance for the coaching staff to see different lineups, different matchups, guys in different situations, and a little for everybody in the organization, young and old, to be on the ice together, experience playing with Jordan Eberle, and also, Berkeley Hatton getting to play with Matty Berniers. I think it's important for everyone's develop when you can have that experience. Don't want it just to be a blind. Berkeley Hatton never sees Matty Berniers on the ice, and it's a chance for Berkeley to be able to show what he can do with NHL players. It's a chance for the older guys to be leaders and show Berkeley Hatton how we work and how we play. Well, I love hard work. I love intentional hard work, and that comes with planning, that comes with detail. That goes for them on the ice as well in their games. We just don't want to be a hard-working team. We want to be an intentional, smart, hard-working team, and that kind of gets installed in practice with the detail of what we do and how we do the drills and why we're doing them, and hopefully that is a message they clearly get.
Intentional hard work. There it is. See, I was trying to come up with a new phrase, and Dan Bylsma already came up with something. Intentional hard work. I freaking love it. I'll be honest, I'm not always an intentional hard worker. But you get moments, these brushes of brilliance where you tap into your zone of genius and things, man, they just freaking flow. Dan Bylsma, in 2 days, is putting in the work. He is laying the foundational bricks to make sure that this Kraken team are always competing with the 3 Fs. Fast, forechecking, and oh baby, we're going to have some fun this season. I'm claiming it. Let's do it. I'm fired up. I hope you're fired up too. Remember to be kind to yourself. Be kind to others, but first you got to be kind to yourself. Be kind to others, hold fast, stay true, and loud and proud we say, especially come Sunday, let's go Kraken. I'll catch you on the next episode. Peace out, everybody.